Good morning. Thank you very much for coming here today. Quite a large number. I'm impressed. So I'm Nick Barcet. Been working at Red Hat for a little while now. And I'm a French guy that lives in Boston. I'm currently moving there. Been working on OpenStack since the beginning. I was one of the lucky few to be present in Austin a few years ago. It's been quite an interesting journey. And today, we are here at a community event, and I think we are all people that know what OpenStack is about. So I'm not going to be giving you our traditional marketing speech. I'd rather talk about what I care about in OpenStack at the moment. And what I care about is, funnily enough, a lot driven by what's happening in Israel. As you know, Red Hat acquired a company called Convergence that was doing KVM and Spice a few years back. And Red Hat has been growing a quite interesting development center and sales, but mostly development, around technology like virtualization, like networking, around multiple things that are at the heart of what we're doing with OpenStack. I have the great chance to have two product managers that are in my team working with me that are based in Israel. There is quite a few engineering managers that are in this room today working with us, delivering OpenStack with us. And this is really a great joy. We are really making good progress together. Let's try this clicker. Yes. What also makes me really happy is when I see posts like this. That's last week. The clear demonstration that, yes, as Jonathan told us about at the beginning of this conference, OpenStack is really getting mature. Less than a year ago, there was this event in California where I just listened to, where people were still asking, is enterprise ready for the enterprise? And now I think it is clear when we see a company that is 60 years old, that is not the most innovative company in the world, that decides to standardize all of their production workload on OpenStack. Hey, that means that somehow we've been able to drive through the transformation that we were promising 5 years ago. And we've been doing more than that. And as I am a product manager at heart, what I'm doing every day is trying to listen to what people are trying to do and trying to translate that into small bite-sized action items that engineering teams can develop. And there are a few things that we are trying to do at the moment with OpenStack, which are still not complete. And we've heard some of this from Jonathan, from Axel at Dutch Telecom. But I'd like to look a little bit more about it. OpenStack is not just about let's deploy this technology and use it. It's more than just deployment. OpenStack is something that is about one key thing, which is automation. And when we are talking about automation, we are talking about what is really relevant with OpenStack. It's not OpenStack itself. It's the application that are running on top of it. I mean, there wouldn't be any OpenStack if we didn't have workloads to run on top of OpenStack, right? And the automation of the deployment of the workload is very important in that sense. That's because OpenStack is providing an API that allows to automate the deployment of this application that we are somehow starting to win this race. But this API doesn't stop at the application workloads. This API, we need to use it as well to manage our own deployments. The deployment of OpenStack itself, OpenStack is, yes, a low-level application, a low-level infrastructure tool, but it needs to be automated itself. We need to be able to deploy and redeploy and update and upgrade OpenStack on a continuous basis. We need to be able to put OpenStack in the middle of so many components in the infrastructure that if we don't have a complete set of CLI and API that allows to drive the whole infrastructure, we will have missed what we are trying to deliver. So this is one of the key things in which Red Hat, along with many others, have been driving within the community, because everything that we do, we believe that it needs to go upstream first. But of course, automation without having the ability to provide automated upgrades would not be very interesting. And when I'm talking about automation and upgrades, well, I'm not that stupid as to promise the delivery of automated upgrades for any OpenStack deployed in any way in the world. I'm going to tell you, we are going to be able to provide a way for a set of reference architecture to be upgraded seamlessly in place in automated fashion, but we know that none of our customers will actually exactly follow our reference architecture. So we need to provide tools that are going to allow our customer to automate the testing of an upgrade, the creation of their own modification to the upgrades through script, and repeat through automation the test until it works. So that when they actually do the upgrade in production, it actually works. But it's also very important for us to be able to detect when the changes that we make are breaking use cases that our customers care about. So we also want to drive the automation to be an automated conduit between our customer and us to know ahead of time through the use of something that is already used in the upstream OpenStack project, the distribution of continuous integration. We want to be able to extend the continuous integration principle that OpenStack is driving to the end user. Another thing that is very important is the operator of the cloud point of view. These operators have been kind enough for the past 2 years, something like that, to meet together and tell us what is important in their eyes. What is it that makes OpenStack something that they can operate? And what it is that they are missing. And clearly the tool that we were using before to know whether our infrastructure was running are not the tool that we can use today with OpenStack. We have a massive challenge of scale. We have a massive challenge of, hey, we are not deploying on single servers anymore. We are deploying on distributed systems with bits that fly around different servers. How am I going to debug that if I don't have tools to do log aggregation? And more importantly, search in some kind of context within those logs. How am I going to be able to know whether my system is performing correctly if I don't have a scalable performance monitoring tool? And this, the community in open source has been driving toward building such tools, and they are available to the people that have the time to do the experimentation to put it together with OpenStack. But we believe it is our role to be providing a base model that we think is viable. And putting together these requirements is what we are doing. Integration. Well, there is not a single time where I hear about an OpenStack project where I don't have some other component that plays a key part. Maybe Ceph to do the storage. Maybe some spatial hardware. Maybe some kind of a tool that provides some management capabilities on top. Very often, it's our own, but sometimes it's others. And the value that we need to provide to the end users is the integration with the tools, putting them together, making sure on a continuous basis that they are continuously improving. And we have the great luck at Red Hat to have many of these components. But don't believe that it's all because it's in-house that it's going to be a lot simpler to drive. We still have to make people talk. And, you know, as in every large organization, transforming the way people have been doing things is always a challenge, whether it is at DT or whether it is at Red Hat or in any company. I'm sure HP has the same kinds of problems. And so this is really something that on a daily basis we've got to move forward. And one thing that is very important to me is that I don't want to start seeing tons of variations of OpenStack. This OpenStack is suited for the shoemakers, and this OpenStack is suited for the people that are trying to go to the moon, and this one is something great. We want to deliver one OpenStack that is multigrade, that offers the capability that are required by the enterprise to move their workloads onto OpenStack. What is that? Of course, there is the need of having high availability of the OpenStack API. And we could say, oh, if I have that, this is enterprise grade. But no, we also need to have the ability for some of those pet applications to be able to survive inside of an OpenStack environment without being too messy. So we've been working on making sure there is some kind of automated VM recovery in case of host failure inside of OpenStack. And there is these guys that want to do NFV, and these guys, they really need to have very, very fast packet throughput. And so we've been working in adding this capability inside of OpenStack. And this is by bringing all these features together that we are going to attain a state where OpenStack is really the road warrior that we need, the multi-grade solution that is going to be the answer that can be configured to solve your problem. So we end up with a great design like this. I mean, I'm not going to teach you what OpenStack is about. If you're here, you already know that. Now, what I'm hearing also from the customers and users I'm talking with is this great notion of convergence, converging toward a common goal. A goal that is to say, hey, let's use containers to describe the deployment of our new application in a way that is completely independent of the platform on which we are going to deploy them. Independence means that the same set of rules, the same set of bits needs to be able to run on Amazon, on Google Cloud, on OpenStack exactly the same way. And this is something that is so critical in their ask that every time that I see a solution that says, hey, I've got the best container deployment strategy for this cloud, maybe OpenStack, I will tell to people, hey, great technology, pointless. It's specific to one environment. We need independence if we want convergence. You also want to completely avoid any kind of redundancy. Today, container deployment provides yet another layer of storage, yet another layer of network, yet another layer of everything. And it's not because you're running inside of containers which are much more dense, much more fast, that you're going to avoid this redundancy. So we need to drive within OpenStack the ability for this redundancy to be driven to a minimum. We need to make sure that the networking layer are closely interconnected when you're deploying containers on top of OpenStack, so that OpenStack becomes the preferred environment for containers to be deployed in. We also need to provide, to solve that, contextual awareness. If I am driving deployments of container using Kubernetes, Kubernetes needs to know when it has these magic powers that appears to hit when it's running on top of OpenStack. It shouldn't be the container itself, what you've deployed inside of the containers, that knows where it is being deployed. It should be what is controlling the container deployment that should have this contextual awareness. And fortunately enough, this is not necessarily how all of OpenStack has been thinking about containers since the beginning, but we are seeing more and more people starting to think this way. The different projects within OpenStack are now heavily contributing into Kubernetes, into upstream container technology to drive these requirements. But of course, we need to be able to have a very simple way to manage these containers, whether they are deployed within OpenStack or outside of OpenStack, whether they are mono-cloud or hybrid cloud. And luckily, at Red Hat, we've got this technology that we open source after the acquisition of ManageIQ that is providing a great framework for that. It's not the only technology that exists, and this competition is very nice to have, but we think that we have a tool there because it is the only one in its class to be open source that is going to be part of the revolution that we're trying to drive forward. And all this put together is what I call convergence. Convergence of the application world that needs to be independent with the infrastructure world that needs to be automated and have the two work completely seamlessly together. And if we look at how we are trying to put that together at Red Hat, it can be explained with boxes, yes. It's amazing. You can solve every problem in the world with boxes. But what's very important is that with OpenStack, we've got a great tool to manage the scalability of any deployment, whether it is standard services running in standard VM, whether it is containers running inside of VMs or on bare metal, whether it is tools that are going to be able to go beyond OpenStack, whether it is environments that are going to be able to help you manage what's inside of your containers. This is a whole stack that we need to deliver to our users so that they can go all the way to one direction, which I think is very important, which is upstream first. Thank you very much.